Everything from questions about cucumbers to homes on cul-de-sacs. You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show with Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and James DeFreitas, the son. For the next hour, call in with your questions in gardening, growing your favorite veggies, and growing your profits in real estate. Locally, call 813-289-1860. Toll free 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am Stan the dad, and you are?
And I'm James the son.
And we are here every Sunday. And we know a lot of folks are going to church and doing other stuff. So we appreciate you taking some time out of your day to be with us this morning. We hope you all had a very happy 4th yesterday. There wasn't any of the city displays, but boy, I had people blowing stuff up at midnight all around there. And I kept thinking, okay, folks, it's good that you love our country as I do, but gosh, I mean.
Yeah, and I mean, having spent a little bit of time at your house yesterday, you have one neighbor in particular, and I don't mean to pick on him, but I'm going to pick on him just a smidge. And I don't know why, and again, I'm not against people having a good time with fireworks, and this is going to sound a little fuddy-duddy, but, I did see that people can legally obtain fireworks if they're willing to say that they're going to scare fallow and birds. And so that's the little waiver, that's the little trick that people can have when they're going to go purchase fireworks that otherwise would be illegal. But yeah, your neighbor was launching off what sounded like mortar shells.
Like M80s or something. They weren't just little firecrackers. Well, to the end of the night, some of them are firecrackers. But every once in a while you'd hear, and actually
boom!
The things that are pretty up there, I don't mind.
Right.
But the things that just rock your windows.
Well, yeah, and I think I'm more on board. I like the professional fireworks shows that are kind of set to music and, that things are going to be pretty safe. When you get people going out and buying mortar shells and launching them in their backyard, I had visions last night of when I was driving away from your place going, wonder if that camphor tree in the back is going to still be there tomorrow.
Gosh, well, it was. I went and checked it first thing this morning.
But everything was A-okay?
I kept thinking, gosh, and I'm all for celebrating our country. We live in the best country in the world. Has our country ever made any mistakes? Well, yes. Has every country? Yes. But for the most part, and I agree with Mr. Joe in there, our form of government is a great one. And for people who really hate our country, I'm not going to. We'll get in here close. Let's see if the mic seems to be fine. Mm-hmm. But if you really hate our country, then pack up and leave. But I won't get any more political than that. That's all I'm going to today. I am going to say I had a question that was sent to me. I have a pine tree with tiny BB-sized holes in the trunk. Well, that is a little pine bark beetle, and it's tiny. It's a pretty small beetle. It will be a problem. Probably the best thing is sanitation. Cutting it out, call our friends at Utsi, get that pine taken out, and you probably are in better situation than if you leave it. If you do, you could get a professional to come in. I have sometimes injected them and sometimes sprayed them. And if the pine is over 10% brown, you're probably going to lose the tree no matter. And I usually say that to folks. Look, I can treat this, but probably, with oaks, I feel like my success rate is, kind of like us with real estate. Probably in the 90s, they were probably going to get it done. Or at least historically, for me, I could say that, 95% of the time, I'm probably going to keep your oak going. I can say in real estate, more than likely, we can get people to come to the auction. We'll probably sell that property probably in the 90s, probably 95% maybe. So
yeah, and part of the reason that we can kind of aim for those numbers is that we don't take everybody. One of the things that we try and do is we try to make sure that we look at the property and we try to determine whether or not it's ripe for an auction. Not every residential real estate or land or commercial piece of real estate is ready for an auction. It's not to say that we can't help everybody, because we can, and we can be a primary tool. Now, a lot of times real estate agents don't really look at what we do as something as a primary tool, and that's something that's an education gap that we'll have to fill. I think a lot of times, one question I often get with residential auctions is, oh, okay, well, is it going to do, I have to bring cash, right? I mean, it's only a cash deal. Well, no. Now, you're going to have a significant amount of money set aside for an escrow. And again, significant isn't as much as you think. But in our auctions, now, not every auction house is the same. So keep that in mind. But, you are going to have 5% down as your escrow deposit. And you have to mean it. So, when you typically go buy regular residential real estate, there's an inspection process. There's, the bank does their appraiser and sends out their appraisal, report to verify that, the home that you're buying is worth what everyone is wanting to pay for it. And a real estate auction, it's different. There are no contingencies. There's no appraisal being done. There's none of that occurring. Now, it doesn't mean you can't have the property inspected. We recommend everyone get an inspection on any auction property so that you are a more informed buyer bidder. And I think that's a if you're going to spend a couple $100,000 or more, then that's a decent investment to pay the couple $100, get an inspection done, and then you know what you're buying. We always say the right time to look at a property on an auction is, the right time to get something inspected is before the auction occurs and not after.
Yep.
Now, people tend to get that backwards. They tend to want to do it in a way that's, oh, well, I didn't know that that cool decking was cracked. I didn't really look at it. No, I didn't, All right, I understand. You bought it. You bought it as is, where is.
That's something we love to say.
That's right.
As is, where is. That's two of our big phrases.
So you got some more gardening questions there?
Well, we do. Somebody also asked me about their avocado. And they said, I brought another avocado in, one of my Brogdon. And
now, I've heard that it's possible that you could let that ripen and then let's say a wife comes into the scenario and she looks at it
get you into trouble now.
And sees that it's ripe. And maybe because it is a different kind of avocado, that it could be assumed, you said it's a Brogdon.
Yeah, and it will turn black.
So it turns black.
And black is beautiful.
But that in and of itself, often we assume that when something turns black, like a banana, that we assume that it's probably past its prime. It's
past its prime, yeah.
But not necessarily for that particular type of avocado.
That's true. This Brogdon was found as a sport, which means it just came up in their grove, and it was in Winter Haven, and they said, gosh, this tastes really good. And the sport just is something that happened on its own. Now, we often have people trying to hybridize stuff, and they're taking pollen from, the anthers and putting them on the stigma and trying to get a special variety of whatever it may be. Kind of fun to play with. With the avocados often, too, which brings me to another question we've had, and that was, everybody grabs the seed, and then we put the 3 toothpicks in them, and you can grow them. But it's normally going to take 7 to 10 to maybe 12 years to be a good producer.
So I know where you're going with this. And so if I may add.
Go ahead.
If you go to Stan DeFreitas' YouTube channel, which is actually Ask Mr. Greenthumb, just type it into the YouTube search, he educated me on the process of grafting. And, and actually I've seen some pretty neat little tools out there. They should probably be sponsoring the show. But there's a neat little tool called a grafting tool that splices it in such a way that makes that process easier, and you don't have to use that little scalpel knife thing where you said, oh, I've slipped a few times with this.
Yeah, I've got a scar on my finger from many, many moons ago where I slipped doing a graft, and I can tell you, the hibiscus I was trying to graft never took to my finger.
And you just don't have a flower growing out of that hand. I can attest to that.
Well, people think that I should. I mean, the other folks will come to me too and go, oh, Mr. Green Thumb, Mr. Green Jeans. And I go, hey, I like Mr. Green Jeans. I grew up watching the captain, met the captain over at Channel 3 one time. And a great guy. Said,
this is Captain Kangaroo?
Captain Kangaroo, and he had a sidekick. His trusty sidekick was Mr. Green Jeans.
Aha.
So people will often come up to me and go, you were like Mr. Green Jeans. And I go, yeah, well, that's not, I know. I bet you think I've never heard that one before.
Right.
But, of course, I've done that to people, too, and I'll say something, and then they'll go, yeah, I've been listening to people tell me that for the last 100 years. Anyway, yeah, we're trying to we'll get a little closer to the mic and make sure we're there. Sometimes, when I first learned radio, they always said stay 6 inches from the mic. And, of course, everybody back then had the kind of like our Ken. They all had what I call the big pipes.
The deep baritone.
This is Walter Cronkite. And you're going, oh, okay. And, in fact, I first started in radio. I thought, my gosh, if I don't have Walter Cronkite's voice, how can I be successful? Well, somehow for the last 40 years, I know Joe Pippin's been doing it for 30-some years. Joe, I've been doing this for 40-some years. But we'll have a dueling contest on who's been doing it longer. But he'll say every week, continually.
So you've got your gardening questions there, and I've got some real estate questions.
I'll let you go ahead and do a real estate question.
Yeah, so we'll just kind of go back and forth here. One of the questions that people often get, especially first-time home buyers, and I would also say, too, auctions can be a great deal for first-time home buyers. Now, one of the things I find nowadays that was different than 20 years ago, and even then I think it was starting to happen, but it wasn't happening to this degree. Nowadays, the first-time home buyers generally come in with, well, we looked at this, we looked at this, we looked at this, we looked at this online. And then they find out that, that they can't handle all of it on their own like they'd like to. I mean, that's typically,
sure.
That's the process that we sort of have witnessed. And I know the fellow real estate professionals out there can identify with this. One of the things that they'll, but the nice thing is, it's hard to get into the properties unless you're with an agent.
Sure.
And so that's, and again, the one thing I would also say is if you're a first-time home buyer, and you're thinking that you're the buyer, and you think that you're going to save on the commission, well, you really shouldn't think that way. You should realize that the commission's going to get paid out irrespective of whether or not you're represented. So get represented. And with that, we'll be taking a break here in a minute, and you can give us a call, 813-289-1860.
Or 877-969-8600. We'll put you on the air with us as we talk about horticulture, plants, trees, and the like, and real estate.
Want to talk real estate auctions? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online at aflre.com.
Hi, Darcy the cow here for Black Cow, the mature manure. Every time you buy a bag of Black Cow, you're helping the environment. Black Cow contains 10 times more nutrients and microbes than garden soils. Your lawn, flower beds, and vegetable gardens will be off to a great start with Black Cow.
Black Cow, the mature manure. Black Cow.
Are you thinking about selling your home? You need more than a great realtor on your side. You also need a trusted title agency to close the sale. Connect with one of our local real estate closing specialists at Title Insurers of Florida. We've worked with the Tampa Bay community since 2003 to provide smooth home closings and title insurance when it's your time to sell. It's not just paperwork, it's the safety and peace of mind you deserve. For title and escrow services that are unparalleled, give us a call at 727-456-4700. Title Insurers of Florida. We're opening doors for our community, one closing at a time.
Have you ever thought about auctioning your home?
930, 1 bid and 2 and 2 bid and 3 bid and 4 and 4 bid and 5 bid and 2 9 bid and 6 on 2 9 bid and 7
Remax Metro encourages you to auction your Florida real estate. Please go to aflre.com. That's A for auction, FL for Florida, and RE for real estate. We achieve full market value for your home. Tired of paying real estate commissions? How about 0% commission for sellers? That's right, sellers pay 0% commission. Again, go aflre.com. That's Auction Florida Real Estate. That's aflre.com.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's PLANTZ, is bringing nature inside, in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity. And get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
Utz Tree Service, that's YUTZY, is singularly focused on complete customer satisfaction and has been for almost 50 years. From initial contact to service completion, UtZTreeService.com will prove that you have hired the best tree care service available. With the most knowledgeable staff and the most advanced equipment, you can be sure that UtZTreeService.com is the most professional tree care company in the Tampa Bay area. Contact UtZTreeService.com today for the high...
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial problems with flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we're here with you, as we are every Sunday morning, and we appreciate it when you tell your neighbors and friends. And a lot of people knew me from Florida Gardening when I was on another station, and close frequency to this one. But I want you to tell your neighbors and friends, garden clubs and the like. In fact, I had one garden club contact me last week and said, hey, when we're ready to start to do programs again, which we're not sure when because of COVID, would you come give a talk? And I said, sure. That's some of the things that I have done over the years. I've given thousands of talks.
Sure.
And I always enjoy doing it. I'm probably going to mention, Remax Metro to you during the talk. I'm probably going to mention about our auctioneering skills that my son and I have. But, that's something that we'll be certainly moving toward.
Sure, absolutely.
Now, you started to talk about a little bit more about real estate, and then we kind of had these
the
commercials.
Break, the break came up on me. But yeah, one of the things I was going to say is that often the first-time home buyer is what I was kind of driving at. And this is where the real estate, people's real estate starts to come together. They're usually, in the state of Florida, the average first-time home buyer is 34 years of age. Mm-hmm. And so, and that's one of the and if I had one tip for other professional, other real estate professionals out there, I probably would not market to, somebody that's 22, because they're still, they're 10 to 12 years away from actually making a purchase. And that's a bit early to start getting in their mind. I think maybe in their early 30s, you start marketing to them in terms of, hey, this is services that we provide and here's how we can help you.
So 34 is the average age when people are buying their first home?
Yeah. Now up north, it's younger. But we're the retirement stage.
We have a little more of an older demographic.
Right. So that has to be thought of too. But yeah, in the state of Florida, the average is 34 years of age. So, the one thing that I would say is they, in more now than ever, is they're more prepared. They have more knowledge. They've looked at the Zillow. They've looked at the Zestimate of that home. So again, another tip to my other real estate professionals out there, and I know you know this, but I'm just going to say it. This is primarily to new agents, is that be prepared when you're having that listing presentation. Go ahead and print out the Zestimate. Bring it in, because they already have it in their mind. If you show it to them, that's one more way to dispel that you know something already that they thought, oh, well, he probably won't even know that. Well, you did. And you had it ready, you had it printed out, and you said, here's the number. That doesn't mean that that's what it's going to sell at. And if that was the case, we could all quit tomorrow and we wouldn't have a job. We'd just, go to work for Zillow. And so, the nice thing is that, it provides some basis or some idea of people to know a few things, but it's not exactly the end all be all. And so that's why you go and you get a real estate professional, somebody that's familiar with the area, understands the demographics, understands the community with which you're trying to purchase in. So,
sure. Makes sense to me. We often use appraisers. Somebody asked me the other day, I went and passed the appraiser's class. I was a state appraiser in 2002 for properties. I just decided, I could make a couple $100 doing something for the bank. Or I could go out, and I worked in more of these eminent domain cases, and I worked in a bunch of those, and I thought this seemed like it was going to be better. And often I had to involve you. We had some cases where we counted 20,000 plants. Mm-hmm. And I might say, people sometimes complain about our court system, but for the most part, I think our court system is great and maybe the best in the world. We have the ability for the little guy to be able to play on a playing field with the government, other folks. Mm-hmm. Often with eminent domain, they come through and say, we're taking your property. and maybe it's to put a school in, maybe it's to widen the road. And some of the folks will come along and go,
maybe it's a shopping center.
Yeah, maybe it's a shopping center,
I do think eminent domain has been abused a little bit in terms of
maybe
growth.
it's the Mesa Bank.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, it's you can certainly debate what a public, because for eminent domain, and people that aren't familiar with it, and most of the time when we say that term, unless you're an attorney, most of the general public isn't sure what that means because they've never had any dealings with it. But I'll tell you, when you start to get a dealing with it, it's when you get a letter from your local government, or your county or city, or or state even, or in the situation that with Trump's wall, then that they're going in using federal authority to from the powers of eminent domain, and that's derived directly from the U.S. Constitution. It says that the United States has the right to go in and seize land as long as it's for a public good. So that's where they're getting that. The only problem is, and this is where we get into lawsuits, is it says that you must provide fair compensation. Well, the Constitution didn't specifically enumerate what that meant, and that's great. I'm glad they didn't, because if they did, you and I would not have had a job.
Well, I worked for a lot of the, Brian Bovis and David Holloway, and a lot of the attorneys that have been in the field. I've worked for most of the ones that are the good ones, and a few that weren't. But I will say also, I was shocked last week. I was talking to my buddy Richard Parham, who is an appraiser and works on a lot of cases and has a big staff. And he was telling me that Bella Patel, who was an attorney in Brandon, who passed away last week, and I'm sorry to hear that, because she was a very interesting lady. She would march all over neighborhoods and stuff, and she was
a go-getter.
She was a go-getter. She was fun to work with. And certainly, I'm sorry for her and her family, because she was a good lady.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and that means that now we're going to a break. But I'll tell you, if you want to give us a call and talk about plants and or real estate, you can do so at 813-289-1860.
And we're going to show you some weeds that were brought in by one of our fellow staff members. We'll talk about that later.
Ken.
Yeah, Ken. We'll talk about that in a bit. And also maybe avocados and other things. Stay with us as the Plant Talk and Real Estate Talk continues.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at askmrgreenthumb.com.
Buying a home or refinancing your mortgage? Don't settle for limited loan options. And don't waste your time calling all over town just to compare rates. Skip all the hassle and connect with Motto Mortgage Advisors instead. Motto Mortgage Advisors home loan experts offer a wide variety of mortgage products, and they'll help you compare rates and loan terms in one convenient location. Visit mottomortgage.com or call 727-202-5626. Motto Mortgage Advisors, NMLS 1744233. Each office is independently owned, operated, and licensed. Equal housing opportunity.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at askmrgreenthumb.com. Got questions on gardening, real estate, or both? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am Stan DeFreitas, Mr. Greenthumb.
And I am James DeFreitas, Mr. Real Estate Man.
Hey, there we go. I like that. Got a moniker for you already. And if you've got some questions for us, well, give us a call. I've been doing this for about 40 plus years as a horticulturist, and said I've been working around real estate for almost 20.
Yep.
Not quite, but I've been working. Often I would work with the when we do the eminent domain cases, you have an appraiser in the deal. You'll normally have maybe an engineer. You're going to have a whole bunch of people. I always felt like I was kind of like the field goal kicker, because you had all this plethora of knowledgeable folks who would be, kicking their part of the can down the road.
Sometimes the field goal kicker wins the game, though.
Well, I always thought I was kind of important in a backstory kind of way.
Well, especially in an eminent domain case where there's plant material involved, even if it's and I'll dispel a myth right off the bat, which is it's not just what the land is worth. Sometimes there are intrinsic values. Maybe there's you have interesting soil composition on your property. that could inherently make it more valuable.
Astatula sand.
Astatula sand. Yeah, they're well, I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Your property
maybe gold underneath there.
You could have unique a soil bed, and that could make it more valuable. But the thing that is often forgot about as having its own value are the trees. And again, even if you don't get 100% compensated on your trees, to not get compensated at all for their beauty and value that they provide in the shade that they provide on your land is a mistake. So often, the way I see it working a lot of times, especially in your business, is, of which I am a material participant in, is you're kind of a leverage tool. When they look at it and go, well, what about this? And all right, well, how much can we get for this? And, sometimes it's you're the focal point. The one case that comes to my mind is the Carol Ward case, and since that's a case it's over and done with, we can talk about it because it's public record now. And that case in particular is the one that he was referring to, where we counted 20,000 different plants, and we put little dots and did little lines across this nursery of all the rows and everything so that we had everything officially counted.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was an interesting case, because that was an active nursery, where you had plants being sold every week. And so we would often have to go back and recount the total and find out how much plus or minus, how much loss he had from, plants that died and that sort of thing. But a very interesting guy, former, I guess he was in the cattle business.
Yep, he had sold cattle at one point. Interesting character, very nice guy. I enjoyed his personality.
Yeah, he definitely was the type of guy that you look at it and you looked at his nursery and stuff and you said, well, this guy doesn't probably have two pennies to rub together. And then after you talk to him for 5 minutes, you realize you wouldn't want to get into a poker game with him because you might walk out without any clothes.
Yeah. In fact, when I told him that one time, he goes, shucks, you're going to make me blush. He was a great character.
Yeah.
Well, still is a great character, still going strong. So
absolutely. Yeah. So then that was a situation too, where had they looked at it entirely just from, a land, being taken, and they hadn't thought of it in terms of, what the plant material was worth. I mean, I think when we were all said and done, we put together, I think we valued out his nursery at like $1.5 million. Now, I don't think he got compensated to that, but he did get a gracious plenty because of the valuation that we provided for all of he had some beautiful palm trees that he was growing, and he grew a lot of the expensive stuff, the stuff that you see in front of golf course communities and stuff like that, the areas that Stan and I like to sell real estate in.
Sure.
So, it's one of those things where, if he specialized in a lot of that type of material, and it was a labor of love. So that was a fun one to make sure he got completely compensated on. And he did.
And he did. Yeah. It's funny. He was a good man, and still is a good man for that matter. But, we're here, of course, to answer some of your questions. When it comes to some of the things that we've done, people say, well, why do you even mention that to folks? Well, I've worked on probably 500 or more eminent domain cases, and I always felt like I helped people, and often the attorneys. We're trying to make sure somebody doesn't get run over.
Right. I mean, and there's so many real-world examples, too, of the cases that we've worked on. One of the cases that stuck in my brain, I think their name was Crumpler. And I think he was like a former aviation engineer, I want to say, or pilot or something to that. I mean, he was a very technical, astute kind of guy, but I remember him telling the story that literally to get into his property, he had to go get a chainsaw
and cut his way in.
And cut his way in. And then if memory serves me correctly, he made himself a little runway or something.
Yeah, he'd made his own little ultralight plane.
Yeah.
And he's just one of those kind of guys. You just knew there was a whole lot cooking on in that brain, that he was a sharp guy doing a lot of different things and maybe thinking a little outside the box.
Right.
And I thought, well, God, I always admire those kind of guys who go, he's going to make his own little Walden's Pond in the middle of Florida.
Right.
And gosh, I thought it reminded me of what, the original pioneers to Florida had a tough life. I mean, these folks came down in wagons and they were a hardy bunch.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'll give a little shout out to a former professor of mine. His name was Gary Mormino, and I think he's probably retired now, but he used to teach history of Florida.
Interesting guy.
University of South Florida over here. And one of the things that he wrote a book, and in that book he said that the only reason that Florida ever became inhabitable was our ability to reduce the water level, air conditioning, and DDT. He did an entire chapter that was the only reason that we were able to make Florida habitable. Now, of course, I don't imagine that would be a popular sentiment nowadays, to mention that you what is it, DDT, like chloridane or
well, it's in that same, it's a chlorinated hydrocarbon as opposed to a carbamate or some of the other newer wave of
this
stuff.
Man knows his chemistry, folks.
Well, a little bit. Yeah. I've been around this business for a long time, back when they used dieldrin and aldrin and heptachlor and all those good old chlorinated hydrocarbons. The thing is, they worked, and you're right. I mean, people will go, "Oh, they're horrible." Well, people were dying.
Let me ask you a question. You know all of these very toxic chemicals that were used way back when,
right?
How do you compare the chemicals that were being used then to what we're seeing today when you go to your big box store to buy and it shows the bug upside down, and the bug's usually dead, and then there's like smoke above it, and and there's little skull and crossbones on it, and it looks very scary. How do you compare the before and the now in terms of how safe it is in comparison to what was being used?
Well, everything, of course, is debatable, and that whole area is.
But being a certified pest control operator, you have more experience in this than most, so I think you can weigh in.
Well, and I'll give my opinion. I think everything today is a lot safer. I mean, today, if anything, most of us who are in the business, and I don't do very much of it anymore like I used to, but today, I mean, I mostly inject trees like palms and oaks and things of that nature. I kind of specialized in that because, well, I've gotten to a point where I don't want to pull a spray hose like I did when I was a youngster.
And nor should you. I mean, the next most populous field would be real estate. So every time I turn around, there's a new spray truck going by.
And there are. I will say most of the things today are much, to our chagrin sometimes, is that you can spray it and you only have a very short half-life, which means in a day or two, often the toxicity, even for the bugs, is pretty well gone. Sunlight breaks the stuff down. I mean, in the old days, some of the chlorinated hydrocarbons, they loved it because you'd spray underneath the foundation of a house, and 20 years later, you still didn't have termites coming underneath that house because without the sunlight breaking it down, it persisted. Whereas today, no one has we're going to spray something and it's going to be there for a good long time.
Sure.
And that's one of the reasons a lot of the guys in the termite businesses are saying, hey, we got to go back. We got to treat. We have to tent. We may try different things. We may try some of the organic this or that, oils and things, and with mixed results. A lot of times, folks will say, okay, I'll hire the guy to come in and do the spot treatment. And then after, 2 years of still finding fecal pellets and wings, they go, I think
we're going to have to do something a little more drastic.
We're going to have to put that big tent over the house and use some sulfurofluoride or, some of the gases that they know will work. Now, even there, once it's off, you don't have residual. Once that stuff dissipates, it's gone. And so, the termites guys will tell you, look, we'll give you a warranty, which you'll pay for. But, they're playing a game of hoping that they don't come back right away either, because they could fly back in from the neighbors. You don't have a residual in the house, which is good. You're not having toxicity for you and your animals and stuff, which nobody wants. I mean, to me, it's a slippery slope. We want everything as safe as we can. And as you pointed out, we probably never would have come to Florida if it hadn't been some chemicals to help keep some of the beasties down. I mean, I grew up as a child here. I was born in St. Pete. And I can tell you, I remember when mosquitoes would they're bad enough now. I mean, I still say we got mosquitoes. I mean, I saw a mosquito truck going through the county the other day, going through.
Oh, you did?
In the evening.
Wow.
And I thought, thank God.
How do we get them to come to Clearwater to do that? Because I want to be as safe as possible. And but at the end of the day, when I go outside for 2 seconds and I get bit 15 times by mosquitoes and I can see the mosquitoes are eating better than I am, I think we need to talk about that. We need to have what I would call kind of a balanced approach. Right now, I feel like we're not that balanced. I feel like we've taken out, the chemicals have become so taboo, so politically charged that we're not taking care of doing everything we can to keep people safe. And that, I got to be on the side of keeping people safe.
What always kills me too, because you'll have somebody come by, they're smoking like 4 packs a day, and they'll go, "Hey, what are you doing with those chemicals? Those chemicals will get you." Now
wow,
I'm a lot.
Sounds like somebody I know.
I'm a lot more worried about those cigarettes that you're smoking, and they're going, "Secondhand smoke ain't gonna bother you. It ain't gonna bother you at all." I used to have a nice soprano voice, and you're going, well, maybe that could be. I'm more worried about that cigarette than I am about the chemical you're going to use, and I know that isn't fashionable in some areas. But.
Sure. We'd like to remind you that if you have any plants or real estate questions, we are here. We'd love to talk to you. You can give us a call at 813-289-1860.
So if you're talking about plants, trees, shrubs, mosquitoes, chemicals, whatever it may be, lawns, and also, of course, real estate, give us a call. We'd like to hear from you right here on AM 860.
Want to talk real estate auctions? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online at aflre.com.
Are you thinking about selling your home? You need more than a great realtor on your side. You also need a trusted title agency to close the sale. Connect with one of our local real estate closing specialists at Title Insurers of Florida. We've worked with the Tampa Bay community since 2003 to provide smooth home closings and title insurance when it's your time to sell. It's not just paperwork, it's the safety and peace of mind you deserve. For title and escrow services that are unparalleled, give us a call at 727-456-4700. Title Insurers of Florida. We're opening doors for our community, one closing at a time.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity. And get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
Have you ever thought about auctioning your home?
30, 1 minute and 2 and 2 minute and 3 and 3 minute and 4 and 4 minute and 5 minute and 2 9 minute and 6 on 2 9 minute and 7.
Remax Metro encourages you to auction your Florida real estate. Please go to aflre.com. That's A for auction, FL for Florida, and RE for real estate. We achieve full market value for your home. Tired of paying real estate commissions? How about 0% commission for sellers? That's right, sellers pay 0% commission. Again, go aflre.com. That's Auction Florida Real Estate. That's aflre.com.
UTZ Tree Service, that's YUTZY, is singularly focused on complete customer satisfaction and has been for almost 50 years. From initial contact to service completion, UTZTreeService.com will prove that you have hired the best tree care service available. With the most knowledgeable staff and the most advanced equipment, you can be sure that UTZTreeService.com is the most professional tree care company in the Tampa Bay area. Contact UTZTreeService.com today for the highest quality tree care.
Flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and you are?
And I'm James DeFreitas, the son.
And we're here every Sunday morning. We appreciate that. We do have a caller in Irma and Tampa. We've got some neighbor's tree fell on a house. That sounds bad.
That does sound bad. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
So what's happened?
Yeah, talk to us about it.
Well,
this is interesting.
It wasn't the neighbor's tree. The tree was in my yard, but the roots went out under their driveway, or what would become their driveway.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that the roots were cut, and when Irma came through, it was a live tree, big, large tree. big oak tree, about 60 foot tall or more.
Wow.
It's a big one.
It's a big tree.
Yeah, and pretty big around, too, like 2.5 feet across
Wow.
at least.
Almost sounds like going on to be a grand oak almost.
Yeah, and anyway, it just happened, and of course I wasn't living there at the time because my husband was sick, and I was in the other cities with him in his treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happened, I wasn't here, and of course I didn't have home exemption because I was with him, and my address had changed up there. So I just I just fell out of the cart.
Sure. So are you worried? Did you think that the roots had been cut, and that's why the tree was more likely to fall over? Or?
Oh, well, it was a brand tree. It was not old, and it was in good condition. There was not anything wrong with it.
Okay, so is that kind of your question? Is to trying to find out?
Yeah. How would I find out what to do, or where would I go?
Is the tree still there?
Well, the stump is about 6 foot tall.
Okay. I mean, often in my life, I have been called out to look at things after the fact. Often I like to get called when something is still there as opposed to after, because then
the roots are there and everything.
So maybe you could be called in, like you'd almost at that point, wouldn't you be like doing like a Dr. Baden kind of thing? You'd be looking at it after the patient has died.
Yeah.
So you'd be trying to figure out what happened after the fact, which you have done before.
Yep. That's something I could do. You could give me a call, maybe off air sometime at the...
you definitely, anybody out there can give Stan a call at 727-423-4794. He does make home consultations, and I'll tell you, one of the things that's great about Stan is that he'll take the time with you and look at your trees and anything else that's going right or going wrong, and then often he'll, if he sees something that's going wrong and it's treatable, Stan usually brings stuff that he can come and help provide treatment for people. So that is a wonderful service that you provide. And it's much cheaper than having the trees removed. But in this particular case,
the tree has been removed.
Yeah, the tree has been removed. You might be in a situation where you'd need to talk to an attorney too. Maybe get an attorney involved, and and find out who's liable here.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in, because I am pretty messed up with this thing, and just really affected my life.
Yeah, and people don't realize how important trees are until they're gone. And then they go, wow, look at my power bill, that beautiful tree that provided all that shade. And then not to mention...
It's my house, it's the damage,
Oh, sure.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah, and in your situation...
I've lost it really, just for all intents and purposes.
Did it fall on your house?
Oh, yeah.
It did,
wow.
Okay. Well,
wow.
That's bad.
That's bad. I'm sorry to hear that.
I've got a number of attorneys that I work with that I might, recommend. And
absolutely, definitely get with Stan on that, because, if nothing else, you should have at least a consultation with an attorney and find out what your next steps are. Because I think that's where you should head, and I think getting proper legal advice from an attorney is your next step. And
I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to try to. I never give legal advice.
No.
But I will give you people who are sharp, who
Well, that's what I need, because I don't know where to go. And as far as you would have to go into their yard, and they have a lock gate and about 6 foot chain link fence.
Okay.
Well, everything is doable.
Absolutely.
I worked on one case up in the Panhandle, up in Jay, Florida. And by the way, there's not much in Jay, Florida, but not to denigrate Jay, Florida. But, when I was up there, I go, where's a local motel? And the lady goes, you go about 20 miles that way and you're in Alabama. And she said, there's a good place there. And of course, the lovely Mrs. GT, my wife, said, we're not staying at a 1-star. And so we had to drive back toward Pensacola. But that was a case. That was an interesting case. When I got on the property, the guy was running around with knives in his in his waistband. I called the local sheriff and had the sheriff visit with me. And they sent this big sheriff. And now I like police. I am a big fan of a police.
I love them.
This policeman was 6'5", came out and he goes, he says, off the record, he said, this guy's a nutbag.
Right.
And he said, I'm going to sit here at the edge of the property until you come back out, because I had to go in to look at the property. In fact, it was funny. The first young attorney I talked to said, I think you could sneak onto the property. And I said, no, I'm not sneaking on anywhere. You get something from a judge that says I have legal right to go through his property, because I had to inspect it to see the guy was putting in ooh la la, he had millions of dollars worth of valuable plants in the middle of this weed field. And not to denigrate his place, but I did find a few things, and I said you should compensate him a little bit, because he did have a few things inside the middle of this weed field. I actually came back out just covered with weeds. I had weeds. I had this big coverall I had on, and it was just from head to toe, I was covered with weed seeds. And, of course, I joked with the young guy who was sent out there to work with me, who worked for the gas company, and I gave him the old bear joke. I said, I don't have to run faster than him. I just have to run faster than you. and he was a nice young guy. In fact, back then I could move pretty quick. Now I don't move so well, so I don't know. I think I'd probably be bear food. But anyway, but yeah, give me a call off the air. I've got a number of attorneys you can talk to. Hopefully it's something maybe that you can get fixed with, maybe insurance wise. Most attorneys that I talk to don't want to get involved in too many things. And a lot of times I'm always amazed. They'll go, they'll usually give you the reasons on why something might be a good case. And then they'll give you all the reasons on why maybe something should be negotiated.
Sure.
And so, there again, I'm not an attorney. I trust attorneys for the most part. I think most attorneys try to do the right thing. They try to help folks. Now, are there some bad ones? Yeah, it's kind of like policemen. 99% of most policemen are good guys, maybe 99.9. Is there a bad apple on occasion? Sure. And that's in every profession that you're in.
Well, that's in all of it.
Yep.
Sure. But for the most part, I have faith in people. People always go, well, you're a Pollyanna. Well, I am. I always try to see things, that there is hope and
and you always seem to have a very positive outlook. But definitely give Stan a call off the air at 727-423-4794. I think he can steer you in the right direction on getting some legal advice to help you with that.
That's 727-423-4794.
And stay with us. We're going to keep talking about plants and or real estate at 813-289-1860.
You stay with us as the Plant Talk continues right here on AM 860, The Answer.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at askmrgreenthumb.com.
Thinking of buying a home or refinancing your mortgage? Don't settle for limited loan options. And don't waste your time calling all over town just to compare rates. Skip all the hassle and connect with Motto Mortgage Advisors instead. Motto Mortgage Advisors home loan experts offer a wide variety of mortgage products, and they'll help you compare rates and loan terms in one convenient location. Visit mottomortgage.com or call 727-202-5626. Motto Mortgage Advisors, NMLS 1744233. Each office is independently owned, operated, and licensed. Equal housing opportunity.
Have you ever thought about auctioning your home?
31 better than 2 better than 3 better than 4 better than 5 better than 2 9 better than 6 9 better than 7.
RE/MAX Metro encourages you to auction your Florida real estate. Please go to AFLRE.com. That's A for auction, FL for Florida, and RE for real estate. We achieve full market value for your home. Tired of paying real estate commissions? How about 0% commission for sellers? That's right, sellers pay 0% commission. Again, go AFLRE.com. That's Auction Florida Real Estate. That's AFLRE.com.
For everything from questions about cucumbers to homes on cul-de-sacs, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show with Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and James DeFreitas, the son. For the next hour, call in with your questions in gardening, growing your favorite veggies, and growing your profits in real estate. Locally, call 813-289-1860. Toll free 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am Stan the dad, and you are?
And I'm James the son.
and we are here to answer your questions. Yes, I've been doing radio and television for about 40 years. Might say, nice little article was done in Tampa Bay Magazine.
I know. I was impressed. I mean, I looked at that and I didn't think Foderman was going to give us a nice, look like almost like a quarter page kind of thing in the Tampa Bay Magazine.
Aaron is a great guy. So is his wife, Margaret. They also have great writers, Dick Crippen, Mr. Wilson, who everybody knows from Channel 13.
Sure.
John does a great job. I tend to I look at those stories and I like to listen and read the stories from each one of the guys I just mentioned.
Well, and I think it's so smart, too, because he gets all of the people that, they were great when they were doing their traditional career. And just because they retired doesn't mean that their brain has turned to mush. These guys are still thinking at a high level and write great articles every month for their magazine. And it's so nice that they're utilizing that talent.
That's true. And I saw even Julie Weintraub has their house, she and her husband's house in there, which I thought, God, you knew they would have something, fantastic. And of course they do.
Sure.
And I'm thinking, heck, I know there's somebody out there who's going to go, God, I'd like to have what they have. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to probably, if there's a nice little article there. I even see there's, of course, an article by our old buddy Joe Pippin's in there every Ask an Attorney.
He's everywhere. I get emailed from him every day asking about if I have questions about law services and stuff. And, of course, I don't, thankfully. And I don't even know what kind of law he practices. So that's an interesting
I think mostly
question.
Living trust and wills and that kind of stuff. I think he has enough knowledge. He can help you with any area. But I think that's what he specializes in as far as his profit center.
Yeah, I was just the last lady that called in had a kind of a legal thought. I'm just trying to think of other people that might fit the bill for, but I don't think that's the type of law that he does. So
let me mention to folks too, we were talking about Avocado earlier. Uh-huh. Now we know Joe Weaver in there. Very smart guy, super smart. One of the smartest guys I've come across in Tampa Bay. Maybe the state, maybe the country, Lou.
Now his head's about 5 times bigger than it ought to be.
But I think he may have thrown away one of my avocados because it turned black and it got a little soft, and that's really when it's best. So along with the educational process here, I've taken him.
I like it. We're going to admonish him twice on the air, not just 1 hour, but in the second.
Not once, but twice. And go, I've taken him with a mind full of mush and turned him into a horticulturist here in the Greenthumb Chase.
That's right.
And anybody, you have to be a little older to remember the chase when they did with the Mr. McDonald. He did the commercial for the McDonald's.
Aha!
But you remember that the chase? It was a law program. Actually, the guy was teaching them, and of course, I always loved that. And I thought he had such a distinctive voice. So we'll say, Joe, I'm taking you with a mind full of mush and turning you into horticulturist here in the Greenthumb Chase. Don't throw these away when they get black, because that's when they're just right.
That's right. That's for the Brogdon variety.
It's a Brogdon. Not all of them are like that.
And I would say if it's not the Brogdon variety, if it turns black, you probably ought to throw it out.
Well, that's true. See, that's part of the education process that we go through here. Let me also mention, Ken brought me in some.
Ken, our producer, he brought in some what we assume are just weeds, which, as Stan would point out, is a plant out of place is considered a weed. But we're now looking at this, Ken. What'd you bring us?
All right. Well, I'm not sure what they are. I know they are weeds. That's all I can tell you. I've got this lawn that we built a house about 1.5 years ago in the Riverview area, and the first they put the lawn in, it was beautiful for a while, and then all of a sudden these things started creeping in from everywhere, and I'm not quite sure what I should use to get rid of them, because I'm from Chicago, and we use the winter to get rid of weeds, basically up there.
Yeah, and up there,
everything just dies off in November, and you start again in the spring. But down here, these things are now overtaking my lawn, so I'm just wondering, do I just need a big bottle of Roundup or something? What do I need to get rid of these things?
It looks like you got some dollarweed there, huh?
He does have dollarweed here. This is the one that's a little silver.
Yeah, I'd say some of this is dollarweed.
Dollarweed, and it's a water weed. It means that you're probably either in a low area or you are watering a bunch.
Yeah.
Does the water tend to settle there?
Well, we're right next to a lake area, and we water with a subdivision HOA kind of thing. You can only water twice a week, and it's about 20 minutes each time. So we're not really doing any excessive watering, I don't think.
Well, and as you do, these will get much bigger.
Yeah.
They'll look like lily pads after we have a roll. We're not into the rainy season yet.
We used to treat, what was it, atrazine is what we used to treat those with.
That's true. And St. Augustine atrazine would probably be your weed killer of choice.
Can you even get that anymore?
You can in some of the weed and feeds. You can sometimes. it's more restricted in its use and its timing than it used to be, and maybe good. I mean, we don't want atrazine getting down into your lake and ponds and stuff anymore.
But if I remember, it was kind of a white color, and you would paint it on, essentially.
Or spray it on with a backpack or a little pump sprayer or with a hose sprayer.
But I remember you wiping leaves with that material before when you were trying to be very careful as to where you got it and where you didn't get it.
Well, atrazine is like so many things. When it gets hot, it could sometimes get you into a little bit of a burn. So many things can. And, of course, dose makes the poison. Use it according to label. A lot of folks go, well, if 2 tablespoons are good, 4 tablespoons are better.
Guilty.
And that's where you get into trouble because that can be a problem. The other thing's kind of like a little bit of a, I'm not sure, one of the little flowering weeds. Does this thing ever come up with a flower, this other second candidate?
Not that I've seen, no.
Not that you've seen. There is one called Florida Bettany that looks a little bit like this, has a little tiny white flower on occasion, but kind of inconspicuous. Atrazine should help with both of them. And just from the couple blades you've got in here, I know you do have, it's the Latin name, Stenotaphrem secundatum, which is the Latin name for St. Augustine.
Good.
Where if it's Bahia, I would tell you it's Paspalum notatum. And you'd go, that $1 will buy you a cup of coffee. But I learned them, and when I used to teach horticulture in a different life 30 years ago, I taught at a technical college, and I also taught at St. Petersburg College. In the evening thing, and which was good. I enjoyed it. The thing I enjoyed about teaching is that you had to stay one step ahead of your students because they would often be bringing me in just like you did, Ken, which is good. I like it. When you bring me in live samples, the dollar weed, I know even the broadleaf weed, this other one will be controlled by atrazine, or at least, let me say it'll be reduced.
Reduced?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want you to say it's going to be gone. And it's kind of like insects. People go, well, I want to spray and I don't want to see that insect again. Well, in some cases, insects will come back in a short time. I mean, I just sprayed some spider mites the other day, and I'm going to go back probably middle of next week and hit it again because why? Because mites can reproduce in 5 days with a second generation. And that makes it tough. It was on Italian cypress. And it's funny, you see the Italian cypresses in Italy, and I looked at the ones in Italy, and I didn't see any spider mites. I see in Florida, and we get spider mites all the time.
Maybe because of the cold?
Maybe to the cold, maybe the climate. Maybe it's because it gets colder there, kind of like you were talking about your Chicago. I've been to Chicago in the middle of June, and on the lake up there, it was cool in the morning. I'm going, what? I mean, you're almost looking for a little jacket down by the lakefront.
Can be, sure, yeah.
And I was shocked because I was up there doing I was up in McCormick Place. You know where that is?
I sure do.
I did a couple things. I was helping to pitch a product called the Miracle Steak. Actually, I liked the product. I was getting a commission on the deal. And one thing I will tell you about I thought was funny at the home show up there is that you had to pay to have an electrician come over and plug something in.
Yes, you did.
You could not just go plug in something yourself. I go, well, here's a plug, here's an outlet. Can't I just stick it in? They go, no, you cannot. Unless you are a licensed electrician, you cannot do such a difficult maneuver.
That's a heavy union town up there. That's right.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that definitely is. It's not. We're not used to that here for sure. I mean, when we do when we have done the Tampa Bay Times home show in the past, we're pretty good at being able to plug stuff in ourselves.
But in fact, I mentioned to the promoter one time about that I think ran the show up there, and I think he got insulted that I said, well, I didn't really like that one factor about it. Now, other than that, the show was great. Big show. McCormick Place goes from one side of the highway to the other.
It's huge. Yeah.
I mean, that from what I've heard, that's a massive outfit up there.
You take something like Tropicana Field and make it into about 4. And you might be beginning to get close to McCormick Place. Just a huge place, and it actually goes from one side of the highway to the other.
Jeez.
I mean, just amazing.
So atrazine is what I need, is what you're saying?
Atrazine, I think, is going to be your final answer, and in that category.
Now, how much do I... Now, because in Chicago, you put it on in the spring, you put your weed killer on in the spring, and it pretty much takes you to the fall. Now, you do it again next spring, but here, there's no winter, so do I do it a couple of times a year when they show up?
Yep.
Yeah, I see yours coming up probably in the fall, and then coming up in the spring again, probably. Mm-hmm. We grow weeds like we do bugs. 12 months a year. We grow them bigger and better. Chicago, of course, has great hot dogs and great steaks. but we can hold our own with Chicago when it comes to growing bugs and growing weeds.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate
Absolutely.
We appreciate you bringing that in.
Yeah,
Ken.
that's great.
Not only does Ken do a great job of being the
Producer,
which he is, and we appreciate him bringing in some samples, because the more you ask a question, the more you're helping our fellow citizens with stuff.
And along those lines, we do have some questions that have come in from YouTube.
Sure.
We had a lady named Eugenia. She asks, how do you get rid of whiteflies? And by the way, I want them gone forever.
Well, that's a want. We all want, but that's a big want. You'll never get rid of insects totally. They've been with us forever. It reminds me of a story. I'll go off story just for a second, but I remember when I gave a program one time, the lady was telling me, she goes, you talked about this blight. And she says, I think you made that up. And I said, go back and read the Old Testament. It's full of blight and pestilence. Mm-hmm. It's not something Mr. GT invented. I said, the only problem back then is people starved to death when these, locusts came through and the blight killed off their crops. It was probably good to be the Pharaoh, because other than that, you probably went hungry. And so the same thing here is true when it comes to, some of the blight, some of the funguses, some of the insects. Can you spray? Yes. Can you knock them down? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Will they be back?
You bet.
Yeah, you bet.
Absolutely. And on those lines, if you have any gardening and or real estate questions, give us a call at 813-289-1860, and you can be on the air with us asking your gardening question, asking your real estate question, and if we don't know the answer, we'll find out for you, and we'll report back to you next week.
Here on the Ask Mr. Greenthumb Show and Real Estate Show, you stay with us as the plant talk continues.
Want to talk real estate auctions? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online at aflre.com.
Hi, Darcy the cow here for Black Cow, the mature manure. Every time you buy a bag of Black Cow, you're helping the environment. Black Cow contains 10 times more nutrients and microbes than garden soils. Your lawn, flower beds, and vegetable gardens will be off to a great start with Black Cow.
Black Cow, the mature manure. Black Cow.
Are you thinking about selling your home? You need more than a great realtor on your side. You also need a trusted title agency to close the sale. Connect with one of our local real estate closing specialists at Title Insurers of Florida. We've worked with the Tampa Bay community since 2003 to provide smooth home closings and title insurance when it's your time to sell. It's not just paperwork, it's the safety and peace of mind you deserve. For title and escrow services that are unparalleled, give us a call at 727-456-4700. Title Insurers of Florida. We're opening doors for our community, one closing at a time.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity, and get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
UTZ Tree Service, that's YUTZY, is singularly focused on complete customer satisfaction and has been for almost 50 years. From initial contact to service completion, UTZTreeService.com will prove that you have hired the best tree care service available. With the most knowledgeable staff and the most advanced equipment, you can be sure that UTZTreeService.com is the most professional tree care company in the Tampa Bay area. Contact UTZTreeService.com today for the highest quality tree care.
Have you ever thought about auctioning your home?
30, 1 minute and 2 and 2 minute and 3 and 3 minute and 4 and 4 minute and 5 minute and 2 9 minute and 6 on 2 9 minute and 7
Remax Metro encourages you to auction your Florida real estate. Please go to aflre.com. That's A for auction, FL for Florida, and RE for real estate. We achieve full market value for your home. Tired of paying real estate commissions? How about 0% commission for sellers? That's right, sellers pay 0% commission. Again, go aflre.com. That's Auction Florida Real Estate. That's aflre.com.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at askmrgreenthumb.com. Got questions on gardening, real estate, or both? Call now. 813-289-1860. Toll free. 877-969-8600. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we're here to answer your gardening questions and or real estate questions. We both are licensed realtors. You actually are a associate broker, right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. I've been an associate broker now for about 17 years.
Okay.
I was originally licensed up in South Carolina, and spent a couple of years living in just outside of Charleston, which is a neat town. Always enjoyed that part of our country. It was a neat place.
Beautiful.
Yeah, very different. I always consider Florida, we have, in my mind, we have about 9 months of heat and 3 months where it's, nice. Well, I found South Carolina to be more 6 and 6, or 7, probably maybe 7 and 4 or something like that. It was a little more spread out in terms of the temperature there. And we, and something I'd never experienced being a Florida cracker was having the ground freeze, and that's something that does happen in South Carolina. You think to yourself, well, that's still in the South. Well, yeah, it gets cold there.
Mm-hmm.
It was something, and at the time I was working for a construction company, and I remember going out and telling these young men, hey, you take the day off, you don't need to worry about it. The ground's frozen. There's no way you're going to be able to do the foundation. And they looked at me with a quizzical look and said, well, you don't know our work ethic. And they went back to their trucks and broke out pickaxes and started to cut away at the foundation, even though it was frozen earth.
Wow. Gotta love that work ethic.
Yeah. And again, these are, we might pick on our immigrants from time to time, but we really shouldn't, because these are some really hardworking folks that are really doing some amazing work for us and have a great work ethic.
I agree 100%.
So I have another gardening question that came in from your YouTube page,
Okay.
your Ask Mr. Greenthumb YouTube page, and the guy writes, "Good afternoon, sir," and I'm not even going to say his name because it's an Indian name, and I'm just going to butcher it, and that's just not going to be pleasant for him or me. But he says, "Good afternoon, sir. I got a small bag of 5-pound chicken manure from a farmer friend of mine. I love to do gardening, container gardening, and grow green vegetables in it. My question is, how do I age this chicken manure, and how can I store it to using for next summer? However, I live in a small condo, so without bothering my neighbors, can you please direct me?"
That's a difficult question. Are there any more good questions out there? I used to like to say when I was teaching. That's a toughie because chicken manure may have a little bit of an odor, but not usually kind of throw you out of the condo. My solution, I kept thinking, put it in this large bag, and then you keep pulling it up I could see you like on the 10th floor. Somebody complained on the 2nd floor, you pull it to the 3rd.
I'm getting a clothesline look here.
And if they're the 4th floor, 5th floor, by the end of the next 6 months, you'll have it up to your floor, and at that point, you are. So,
is this a bogus question, or is this for real?
I don't know. It's an interesting question.
I've never had anybody ask me before if how do you age compost? Essentially what he's asking, isn't he, to how to keep the, I don't understand really where he's going with this.
The last time I had a question that weird, it was like Buvio del Moto was sending me.
I think it's a real question. I think it's a real question. I do too. It's an odd question.
Normally I'd like to compost something, and if I could put it in with mulch or something. Chicken manure, when it's first, it can be hot. Mm-hmm. And so normally when you take
you're worried about a burn. And when he says hot, I just want to clarify to the audience that he's talking about that he could burn whatever you're trying to grow.
It usually has ammonia and other stuff in it that can be hot. And so normally we were talking earlier about sunlight breaking things down, which it does all the time, and water tends to break things down. So rain. So often farmers would take some of this and, even with our friends at Black Cow, they turn it. They aerify it. They have.
Well, I was just going to say that. Maybe I think schedule a visit to the beautiful Oxford, Florida. Go see our pals at Black Cow. I think they do little tours when they request it.
Right.
And and you go in and again, one of the things that I think people would learn by going to tour their facility is they would realize how much work is involved in that bag of compost that they're going to go pick up. It's a tremendous amount of work. These guys are out there, they have acres and acres and acres out there, and they have rows and rows and rows that go for 300 yards in one direction.
Sure.
And then they turn those rows, and then they have guys that go out there and take the temperature to make sure it's just right. And so I guess to this question is there's a lot going on there to keeping something that to make compost. It's not as simple as just let me throw it in a container and put it in my storage bin and hope everything works out great.
Yeah, you're going to be the belle of the ball in the condo, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be, it'd set you up for, hey, we think something's dying over here at my neighbor's place, or hey, something smells like moo goo gai pan.
Well, stinkhorn fungus comes to my mind.
Yeah,
that will often come up by your front door where you water a lot.
Sure. Yeah. So, yeah, I kind of get it on this particular question. I think it's one of those type of things where once you learn about the process of how something like that works, I think you're going to find it's just much easier just to go buy something that's already pre-made in a bag called Black Cow.
And you can go to our website. We have one that we did, I guess, a year, maybe 2 years ago on Black Cow. We actually went up and shot it. You had our drone.
We did some drone photography. It was actually a neat little video that we did, and it shows their whole facility, and I highly recommend people to go out and watch it on YouTube. It's a very educational process of how much work goes into those yellow bags of Black Cow.
People sometimes wonder, why can't I just buy Darcy and bring it to my backyard? And Darcy might be fine, but you might want to get something that's processed.
Correct. Yeah, there's more to it than just picking up the droppings.
True. But anyway, we're here to answer your gardening questions, whatever they may be, and you stay with us as the real estate and plant talk continues.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at askmrgreenthumb.com.
Have you ever thought about auctioning your home?
And 30, 1 minute and 2 and 2 minute and 3 and 3 minute and 4 and 4 minute and 5 minute and 2 9 minute and 6 on 2 9 minute and 7
RE/MAX Metro encourages you to auction your Florida real estate. Please go to AFLRE.com. That's A for auction, FL for Florida, and RE for real estate. We achieve full market value for your home. Tired of paying real estate commissions? How about 0% commission for sellers? That's right, sellers pay 0% commission. Again, go AFLRE.com. That's Auction Florida Real Estate. That's AFLRE.com.
Thinking of buying a home or refinancing your mortgage? Don't settle for limited loan options. And don't waste your time calling all over town just to compare rates. Skip all the hassle and connect with Motto Mortgage Advisors instead. Motto Mortgage Advisors home loan experts offer a wide variety of mortgage products, and they'll help you compare rates and loan terms in one convenient location. Visit MottoMortgage.com or call 727-202-5626. Motto Mortgage Advisors, NMLS 1744233. Each office is independently owned, operated, and licensed. Equal housing opportunity.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial problems with flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am Stan DeFreitas, and you are James DeFreitas. I had, something came to me last week, and it was, do we take care of the agents we work with? Now, we talked about a buyer's premium, which we use often in the auction. But, for the agent who brings you the deal.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because the ad that we run is a little confusing. Even though, again, if an agent took the time to talk to us, we would immediately explain to them what the ad meant. That ad was actually created with the idea of being for, just a regular seller, somebody that, has, it was not written with the professional real estate agent in mind. But rest assured, if you are a professional real estate agent, when we charge a buyer's premium, even though the seller isn't having to pay the commission, we understand that you should still get paid. I mean, it's still your client. So if you have it come to a real estate auction, rest assured, whatever your contracted rate was with your seller, you are going to get paid. So if it was 2.5%, you get 2.5%. If it was 3%, you get 3%. So it would change nothing. The only time where it changes just just a smidge is if there is a bidder buyer agent on the end. And then one of the things that we'll add to the deal, and we'll tell you this up front, we don't do anything after the fact. We make sure everybody is on board first, because I always find people get upset when they learn about something they should have known first, and then they hear about it after the fact. That's when people get upset. So we always try to be upfront with that. Where it changes just a smidge is if we have a bidder's buyer's agent involved. So on auction day, if there is a buyer that shows up and a buyer is being represented by another real estate agent, then one of the things that we'll do is we'll go back to the originating selling agent and we'll say, hey, the commission that they're due, we're going to split it. So if it's 2%, then 1% comes out of your share, 1% comes out of our share. If it's 1% buyer's agent commission, then we'll split a half a point each. And that's typically how we operate. So, I do know that commercial is a little confusing, so I'm glad you brought that up. And along those lines, I do have some other questions that I think would be interesting.
Okay.
One question that I've got that I get a lot is, and I'll just pose it as if, it was being asked by, the would-be person with a question. So the question is, hey, do you guys only take on foreclosure properties?
No, we take on everybody.
Right. And I think what they're getting at with that is, I think a lot of times people are confused in the sense that, they think that every time a property is going into auction that the person's in trouble.
Right. And that's not, we'll often want to be involved early in a deal. More so, we're there to help the people when you have a problem too, but we don't want to be the last thought. We want to be maybe on the first thought when you go give your presentation and go, hey, by the way, we have these agents who are working with me, the auction department, the accelerated sales, if you want to call it that, and we're there to help them.
Sure. Yeah. And a lot of times too, people will think of us as an afterthought. And that's a shame because a lot of times, and again, even if you come to us, we're still looking for that 30 to 45 days. I mean, we need to have that much time to advertise your property as an auction to get the word out to everybody.
Sure.
And we can't do that if you come to us and say, hey, they're going to foreclose on my house in 2 weeks. It's tough for anybody to do anything in 2 weeks.
That's like mission impossible.
Yeah, it makes it tough, and so a lot of these questions have to do with, one of the first questions I'll ask people in a group is if they've ever attended an auction, and usually some hands will go up. I'll get some people that will say, yeah, I went to an estate auction, or I went and they were selling stuff. A lot of these auction houses, like the folks on US 19, there's an auction house there. There's auction houses everywhere, but they sell stuff. So for them, their business model is very different. They're trying to figure out how they can sell 500 items in a 3-hour window. Mm-hmm. So they are moving. I mean, these people have to be speaking fast because they've got to get something sold every minute. Every minute, something's got to get sold. Often they're selling 2 items in a minute.
If they're car auction, maybe every 6 seconds.
Right. Yeah. In a car auction, you probably are going to move 6 cars every minute. So that's one of the reasons why they are moving at light speed. Because they're trying to get it all done. So another question that people tend to ask is, hey, what do I need to know if I'm a bidder? If I'm going to come, what do I? Well, you need to make sure that you've registered for that auction. Registration is something that takes place at every auction, including a real estate auction. It also takes place in stuff auctions. They want to know a little bit about who you are. They want to make sure that when you raise that bidder paddle, you meant it. Even more important, in a real estate auction. In a real estate auction, not only do we want to know who you are, we're definitely going to look at your photo ID, take a picture of your photo ID, but we're also going to, and if you're going to, bid online, since that's something that we're offering now, if you're going to bid online, then we usually take like $100 deposit, which is 100% refundable. Sure. So there's no risk to you. You're going to get your $100 back if you're not the winning bidder, and if not, it'll just get applied to the balance owed at closing. So nobody loses out there at all. But we do want to have some information on who you are. And I would also say, from a bidder's perspective, you need to have about 5% money ready to go. So you need to have 5% escrow ready to put down. And I will also say it has to have teeth. So one of the ways that we try to reduce tire kickers is, you're buying it as is, where is. So if you got this change of heart, Well, that's probably going to be a problem because you're going to wind up losing your escrow. We often tell people, hey, look, the escrow deposit is non-refundable. So, and we look at it as, the time value of money. The time that the seller was out, they can't get that back, and they should be compensated for the month and a half that they had the property marketed and ready to sell. And they assumed that you meant it when you bid. So
you tied them up.
You tied them up, and for that they should be compensated for that type of process. So yeah, that's something important to realize. Another question that comes up almost every time from a bidder perspective: do I have to have it all in cash?
No, you don't.
You don't. What's the caveat to that?
You're going to have to close in 30 days. And if you don't close in 30 days, you can lose your 5%. So make sure you're for real and that you've got the financing. We have folks that can help you make sure the financing is
Absolutely.
there.
We love Motto Mortgage.
Sure.
Mortgage. And that's another guy that we're going to be having in here at some point, a guy named Dan Ortiz.
Right.
And we'll have him in discussing all of the various changes that have taken place, and since COVID has come it's into our being, and so it'll be interesting for people to hear a little bit about that, because I know that if you know all the changes, then they're less scary, and I think that Dan is just the perfect guy in order to do that kind of thing, to help make you feel more at home with all the different options and packages that are available and assisting. But the caveat that I would say to our type of real estate auction is that we do allow financing. We absolutely do. But, so the question that will come up to that is, well, wait a second. How do I know what to bid? Well, it's a simple answer. If the bank is willing to offer you $500,000 and the property, now you know where you must stop.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot bid more than you've got. Okay, so it's just like if that money were cash. And often that's what we say in the contract. We'll say cash due on closing. Because at the end of the day, we don't really care about the financing so much, because it doesn't matter to us as to what the bank was going to offer you. This is what the deal is. If you need to borrow $10,000 more or $25,000 more from Uncle Eddie, then you need to call Uncle Eddie and make sure you'll have that ready to go for cash at closing. So that'll be in addition to your loan. And again, if it's a buyer's premium, then the buyer's premium gets added into the total bid price, and that's what your price is. So if say you're buying a $100,000 property and the buyer's premium is 10%, you're looking now at $110,000 is what you would need to have as a bare minimum for closing. Now, there'll be additional closing costs that you'll be responsible for, so you're going to need a little more than that.
Sure.
But sellers, on the other hand, absolutely love it, because, that 4-5-6% that they were guaranteed to have to pay, well, now it's something that is going to be absorbed by the buyer. And what a beautiful thing, especially if why would that might be helpful to some sellers?
Well, it might be if you were up against it. Let's say you were worried about having to bring money to closing, which I've done before myself, and
right.
It was not a fun experience when you had to bring money to closing, because I'm leaving this property, I'm already getting ready into another property, and what you hoped for, you didn't get as much as you thought you were going to get, and it doesn't matter. I know even when some people will go, hey, Zillow said this, my master certified appraiser said that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's not worth quite that.
Well, right. And I would also argue, too, that, an appraisal report it can be helpful in terms of obtaining a mortgage. And it's also, it could be helpful to, the tax, for them to appraise what something is worth from a tax standpoint. But I've never found that an appraisal did anything other than set unreasonable expectations for the seller as to what they hoped to get versus what they were going to get. Mostly. Now, I'm not saying that appraisals, that it's not worth something, because it is worth something, but just realize that, again, fair market value is defined as what a buyer is willing to pay that a seller is willing to accept. And it's not worth a penny more than that. And it's worth only what it's worth on that given day. And that's what we say in the auction business. It's worth what it was worth today. And tomorrow's a different day. The day before that was a different day. And if you think that outside of that, somehow that means something, it doesn't, because what you're looking at is a snapshot in time. So you can't project the future, And if we could, we'd all quit our jobs and we would just we'd make money in the stock market.
They can go here. Yeah, but you'd be like our producer Ken with his dollar weed here. He can go, ooh la la, he made his first $1 billion right in dollar weed. Well, dollar weed isn't a currency, but if it were, Ken would be one of the richest
wealthiest guys we know
in Tampa Bay.
No question about it. So yeah, so that's some of the few things that people need to realize. Now we're kind of different. One of the things that we do in our auctions is we're very transparent. If people want to get the property inspected so that they know what they're buying, we encourage it. Other auction firms don't do that. They just kind of go, well, we're doing a preview on this day and a preview this day, and and then on the very day of the auction, you can go in and you can look around and see what's what. Well, I think an informed consumer is a better consumer, and that's one of the things that sets Stan and I apart. And we also know that in the auction business as a whole, not all, there are some very fine auctioneer companies out there, but there are some challenging figures out there, and we try to counteract that. We try to maintain an absolute professional attitude on how we operate. And I think you'll find that that's how we are when we help you. If you have any gardening questions and or real estate, we're here, 813-289-1860.
Or 877-969-8600. We'll put you on here with the Plant Talk and Real Estate Talk continues here on AM 860 The Answer.
Want to talk real estate auctions? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online at aflre.com.
Are you thinking about selling your home? You need more than a great realtor on your side. You also need a trusted title agency to close the sale. Connect with one of our local real estate closing specialists at Title Insurers of Florida. We've worked with the Tampa Bay community since 2003 to provide smooth home closings and title insurance when it's your time to sell. It's not just paperwork, it's the safety and peace of mind you deserve. For title and escrow services that are unparalleled, give us a call at 727-456-4700. Title Insurers of Florida. We're opening doors for our community, one closing at a time.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity, and get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
Have you ever thought about auctioning your home?
And 31 bit and 2 and 2 bit and 3 and 3 bit and 4 and 4 bit and 5 5 bit and 2 9 bit and 6 on 2 9 bit and 7
Remax Metro encourages you to auction your Florida real estate. Please go to aflre.com. That's A for auction, FL for Florida, and RE for real estate. We achieve full market value for your home. Tired of paying real estate commissions? How about 0% commission for sellers? That's right, sellers pay 0% commission. Again, go aflre.com. That's Auction Florida Real Estate. That's aflre.com.
UTZ Tree Service, that's YUTZY, is singularly focused on complete customer satisfaction and has been for almost 50 years. From initial contact to service completion, UTZTreeService.com will prove that you have hired the best tree care service available. With the most knowledgeable staff and the most advanced equipment, you can be sure that UTZTreeService.com is the most professional tree care company in the Tampa Bay area. Contact UTZTreeService.com today for the highest quality tree care.
Diabetes.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at AskMrGreenthumb.com. Got questions on gardening, real estate, or both? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
We're here to help answer your questions, whatever they may be. I did have another question about, what about my vegetable garden in Florida about the soil? Well, we mentioned Black Cow, one of our main sponsors. You know, we've got 1% organic matter in our soil, and that's not very much. So the more you can improve it, and Black Cow is one of the easiest ways that I know that you can improve that soil. If you can get it up to about 10%, you're going to have better results. Now, I'm going to tell you, the middle of summer, it's tough. Mm-hmm. You know, right now is when it's really hot. I mean, I'd be starting to plan, you know, your beets and beans and broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, carrots, cauliflower, collards, corn, cucumbers, all of these things, kale, kohlrabi, lettuce, mustard, okra, peppers, all can be probably best planted coming up for the fall. And that's probably, really October, because the problem we have in the summer, and we haven't had it, thank God, is a hurricane. Now, I did love the thing I saw the other day online. It had, Marty McFly and the professor. And he said, whatever you do, don't hit 2020 on the time machine.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And I thought, boy, is that apropos.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, Marty McFly, don't hit that 2020 there, because we don't.
Well, hopefully the hysteria of this year will start to calm down, and we'll start to get back to some sense of whatever normal looks like. And again, I say normal, I just mean we need a calmness interjected back into everything that we do. And that's one of the reasons why having this show is such a nice thing, because it gets people thinking about, how to spruce up their house, for a potential sale. And it gets them thinking about gardening and how, they can take their mind away from things that they can't control. And let's face it, we all have opinions about stuff, but at the end of the day, a lot of this we can't control. We can control the beauty that we bring into our lives. And, you can go out and get you can do seeds and I like to do a lot of seed, from packet, because there's something neat about seeing the seed do its thing and propagate and see that new life come about and then turn into something beautiful. I've said this last week. I just had a couple of morning glory flowers open up the other day and I intermix them in with my bougainvilleas.
So you got that nice little blue and kind of nice red purple.
So we got a nice red purple going. It's one of the things that I do. I mean, I go out every day and I know most people out there probably think I'm nuts. I go out there and I feed my squirrels because they're out there and they're looking at me like they're hungry. And of course the blue jays sweep in and they get their little helping. And so I'm kind of feeding my little corner of the world. But that's what I do. It's what, and again, everybody has their little quirks of what they do. I grab my cup of coffee in the morning and I go out there and I enjoy the morning glories and my bougainvilleas and watch the blue jays swoop in. And we have this other bird that swoops in now too that I'm starting to learn their names. He's called a brown thrasher. And cute little bird in that it's kind of a brown feathered bird, but he has all these little bright little brown and black speckles on his belly. And so that's kind of a neat thing. And then we have little finches that fly in. And I guess I say all this because, again, we can turn on the news stations and we can listen to all of that stuff. But I can say that you can also turn it off, and you can pay attention to the beauty out there, or you can pay attention to the negative stuff. And I think we need to think about that.
Well, I do like some of the stations do. I know Kelly does on Channel 13 has this, good story of the day or evening.
Yeah, and that's great.
And I like
we need that,
because sometimes the news can just be almost overwhelmingly bad and down, and you're going, oh my gosh, it's how much depression do you want?
Right, and both sides are guilty of that, of bringing in a lot more darkness than sunshine. And so when people tune in on Sundays, I hope that in some aspects they realize that we're trying to let the light in and bring about some positiveness into your lives.
I know my good buddy Richard Parham, who's supposed to call in today, said, I want to ask questions about native Florida wildflowers and seeds. And I have some information, which I'm just going to hold here at the station because...
Sure. We'll force him to give us that call. Well, you know what? He's a good guy. He's probably getting up to go to church and doing that sort of thing.
Probably shooting off too many fireworks last night.
Well, he might have done that too. But nonetheless, that's a great guy. He's got a great team there. And so, we'll save that question for next week, I guess.
I'm hoping we'll get all the parishioners. We'll admonish him today going, hey, Stan DeFreitas Mr. Greenthumb said you were supposed to call in and you just snuck in the back door of church here. So you need to get on with it. So, we'll give him a hard time.
That's right. Well, he probably enjoy that. But so we're on the air for another couple of minutes. So if you wanted to squeeze in a phone call right now, you could. 289-1860 is the number. 813-289-1860. I left off the 813
at first, yeah.
But if you're in Tampa, you might leave off the 813 anyway. So, so nonetheless, so we're here if you want to give us a call on plants and or real estate, and we'll be happy to put you on the air with us.
We are here to answer your questions. Might say I have a book, Stan DeFreitas' Complete Guide to Florida Gardening. if you want to call my number sometime, if you want to order one from me, I can autograph it. And actually, I usually put a subscription for Tampa Bay Magazine in there, which is a $12 value. But there's more.
There's more. And actually, if you're not local, and you can also go to the AskMrGreenthumb.com, and you can click on the link that's for books, and you can, you have to have a PayPal account. But if you want to buy it that way, you could also buy it that way if you're not local. So there's always a way. We always have a way to accommodate anybody that's interested in. And I will say, his book, and again, I know it's my father, so I'm biased, so I'll admit that right off the bat. But I will say, one of the things that's great about his book is it tells people right off the bat in Florida what their temperature zone is. Mm-hmm. And I don't think people really think about that enough in terms of, we have all these names in Florida. One that comes to mind, and I said this in a previous show, is frostproof. Mm-hmm.
Which turned out not to be frostproof.
Right, yeah. So they had to keep moving the line further and further south in order to try to protect the citrus crop. So that's something that people need to think about. And if you pick up the book, it could be the cheapest investment you make in terms of not having to lose a bunch of plant material in order to learn.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, it doesn't answer everything. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a show. But it does answer a lot of the facts and figures.
I would think that it handles about 80% of the problems that people might run into. And, and if I always think of that 80-20 principle, if you can get 80% of it right, then maybe you shouldn't worry too much about the 20% you didn't.
Well, that's true.
So I think that book definitely fits the bill for that. And now I don't think I'm in that book like your old book that you had.
Check.
I don't think I'm in the new copy, but I was in his older copy that you did in 1983.
You were young back then.
Yeah, so I was
young back then.
Yeah, you had a mustache and the whole. Yeah, definitely rocking the hippie vibe, but you pulled it off, so that was a neat thing. Well, can you believe it? Another 2 hours has gone by.
It's in the record book. We appreciate everybody who did call and listen. We know there are a lot of listeners. Some people never call.
Sure.
But we appreciate you being there, and you can call us during the week.
Absolutely. We're on Facebook. You can just type in Ask Mr. Greenthumb. You can go to AskMrGreenthumb.com's website to see the latest videos. And we are here every Sunday from 7 to 9 a.m.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at AskMrGreenthumb.com.